And it's a beautiful day in the neighbourhood. Imagine me sitting down and putting on my sneakers and putting on a cardigan. And that's only going to mean something if you're American or you're a fan of Mr. Rogers' Neighbourhood, which I think should be mandatory viewing. So yeah, it's Tuesday, and yeah. So it's Tuesday the 3rd of December. It's not quite as frosty this morning. In fact, it's pretty drear. It's relatively sunny for December. It's not too cold. It is muddy. And I'm out in the woods again. Normals type shifts for the rest of the week. So yeah, it's kind of fun. Slowly gearing into the new year. Ever closer, 9 days. Beep, 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 beep. 9 days till the election, when things get substantially worse. So you can stand on one of two places with this, or probably many shades in between, but the two extremes are, you know, given that I have a very despondent view towards the election, I'm feeling quite despondent indeed. Because I have seen the faces of the people of the United Kingdom. And when you see faces like that, when you see self-interest and consumerism all about, and this idea that we're all going to be infinitely rich one day, which has permeated our society, mostly as a result of corporations. It's like, work hard at school, then work even harder at work for your beneficent employers. Except your beneficent employer is not your manager at work. Your beneficent employer is a paperwork AI. If you work for a large enough company, and if you work for a small company, the small company is trying to act like a paperwork AI because it believes that's the way success lies. Ooh. So when you look at that sort of thing, you get fairly sure that people are going to probably vote, you know, overwhelmingly conservative, or just enough of a conservative vote to plunge us into an era of darkness. So you could, if you're me, or if you were thinking like me, well, I think this applies all over the world. I think there are governments in the world that kind of do it at least somewhere along the right lines, where the government is accountable, they still believe that they're working for the betterment of the people in their country. You know, some of the Scandinavian countries are like that, Germany's like that, Iceland is like that. You know, Denmark's pretty cool. Isn't it depressing that that's about it, as far as I can tell? Greece looked like it was going to sort its life out, but I don't think it had enough of an economic base. And because they were marching towards a kind of socialism that would have been uncomfortable for the people with money, I think that got killed off. Look at all the, I don't know if you remember, but all this was a very, very tall Himalayan mountain. Mum, I'm going to have to stop recording. Yeah, so you could stand in a place where you're looking with a certain amount of hopelessness at it. I don't believe my mental superpowers are enough for me to be able to change the viewpoints of lots of people. So yeah, so you could go, so what's the point? What's the point of it all? Or, you know, you could look at it like, well, this is my opportunity. Now I don't need to I can basically thwart the government at every turn whenever I possibly can. You know, if things are bad, then to spot good things is largely a better thing. You know, it's largely a lot easier. And say, right, the forces of darkness are in control. There is the government. Our enemy has clearly, you know, our opponents have clearly identified themselves. So yeah, you could look at it like that. It's sort of like, you know, the enemy has stepped out into the open. And thus it is much easier. It is easier to be in opposition. But it's a lot of effort. Yes. It is a lot of effort. So yeah, it's all very complicated. So yes. You know, of course, on the upside, Labour could win. You know, strange things have happened before, but the polling is suggesting that people are being lazy in their thinking. Going, well, we'll just get Brexit done. Get Brexit done! They took our jobs! This is how you know that Boris Johnson is a fascist. They took our jobs. And then he tried to make political mileage of a terrorist attack on London Bridge. Nice. So yes. Oh, it's all so complicated. But yeah, they've dragged out this whole thing for so long. The UK is going to crash out of the EU with no deal. The United States is going to get its greedy, well, the big corporations of the United States will get their greedy little mitts on another market for drugs. A little white pill costing less than a cent to manufacture will cost $800. Free market capitalism will slowly crush the world. But they better hope someone like me isn't in charge of any kind of, like, you know, anti-air ballistic missile if those fuckers try and leave the planet. Because we're going to shoot it down. So yes. But I think that's the way of it. People are too lazy to think, and then they elect fascists. People don't like the idea of sharing their wealth, so we get fascists. And what are you going to do with $500 billion? I mean, what are you going to do with $500 million? Like 1,000th of that. It's really scary. You know? How utterly pointless. But yeah. And I see this kind of kicking the can down the road attitude, which they may well have learned from their parents, of people towards the environment. You know, if you wreck the thing we're standing on, you are literally sitting on the branch that you're sawing off a tree. You know, and each successive generation does one saw stroke, and then So each successive government does their one saw stroke and then tells the next generation, don't worry about it, you can keep sawing that branch. I sawed it all my life, and my father and my grandfather managed to saw through it and not fall off the tree. And then when you ask someone if they really need to saw that branch off, they look at you like you've destroyed their culture. You know, people, you know, this whole white supremacist thing, oh, we've got to preserve our culture. Your culture isn't your culture, and it hasn't been for thousands of years. I mean, especially Northern European, where, you know, we've gone away and we've found new stuff. You know, it's virtually everything we have is from everywhere else. You know, democracy is from Greece. You know, all our major life-changing inventions are from somewhere else. The food we eat is from everywhere else. You know, maybe we produce some music, but that's all based on, you know, blues, which is based on African songs and drum rhythms and stuff like that. Everything's from everywhere, we're all related. And I think I'm getting a handle on the whole cultural appropriation thing. And I think that if you use someone's culture to point out their differences and inferiority, I think that's a level of appropriation. You know, let's take the ever fuming and bubbling controversy that is, you know, there's no other way to put it, white people with dreadlocks. Now, there are some white people with dreadlocks that have worn dreadlocks as a sign of solidarity to Indigenous people. There are some that have been through stressful situations and have worn dreadlocks because they have been, you know, in danger and have come out the other side, and have come out the other side because of embracing a certain spirituality or idea. But if you, say, wear a hat that has fake dreadlocks hanging around it and you're doing like a comedy version of someone else's culture, that's where it becomes blackface. However, dreadlocks are not indigenous to, say, Jamaica or even Africa. Dreadlocks were worn in Egypt. Dreadlocks were worn in Greece. Dreadlocks were worn by the Celts, albeit knotted in a slightly different style. You know, lots of indigenous people wear dreadlocks because it keeps your hair out of your eyes. You know, and greying hair can stand for a certain amount of seniority. But I think if you're wearing dreadlocks as a joke to trigger someone's association with a particular culture, then, you know, you're punching down in your own estimation. You know, you're saying this culture is inferior to mine and I will make a joke of it. Whereas if, you know, this is why people go, you know, people should really go on a case-by-case basis. Why are you wearing dreadlocks? Because I have been through some strife in my life and the hair symbolises my struggle. This is why, you know, people, you know, assume that and make comments of and claim that dreadlocks are, you know, unclean somehow. You know, or braids are unclean. You know, similar thing with a scalp lock is, you know, was originally there to show the age of, but not get in the way of, a warrior. So, yeah, you can choose to eschew dreadlocks if you're white, so you don't have that confusing option. Or you can wear them with respect to the civilizations that wore them. It's complicated though. But yeah, so I think if you're understanding of a certain piece of someone's culture is complete and you wish to, honour that, then that's not punching down. However, we are all related. The only people that think their civilization is in any way superior are the people that have forgotten that these are our cousins. Everybody on earth is our cousin. Everybody on earth is our family, but our family has got so big, we don't know the names of some of them. That's it. And some of them do bad things, just like some of our relatives do bad things, and sometimes we ourselves do bad things, or thoughtless things. And everybody's guilty of that at some point. Because, yes, it's hurtful when somebody is thoughtless towards you, but, 99 times out of 100, it wasn't with any thought. It's very rare that somebody does something with actual malice, or gets stressed because they think that your action shows some kind of disrespect, and their panic at losing their status within the tribe causes them to overreact. Now, that's the most generous way I can feel about humanity right now. That's as generous as I can be, because I'm still pretty pissed off. I'm still pretty cross with the way things are currently turning out and the lack of progress humanity has kind of made. And fair enough, you could say, well, you're now old and you're looking at everybody else going, why has nobody learned the same lessons as me? And in a way, yeah. But when you think that humanity's been knocking about on the planet for the best part of 250,000 years in its current recognisable form, i.e. if you went back 250,000 years, people would look just like us and probably think just like us. They were no stupider or no smarter than us. But, now we've been in a situation for the last, should we be generous again and say 500 years? But it's probably more like 1,000 or 1,500 years. So for the last 1,500 years, or if you're going to be generous to humanity, the last 500 years, we've had the ability to share information. And now for the last, the last 100 years of that, we've really been able to share information. We've had television, newspapers, we've had telegraph, we've got the internet. We could share everything. We'd share our collective knowledge and educate people on our collective knowledge. But unfortunately, like it's always the case, sorry, I keep looking away from the camera because it's very rocky down here. So 100 years of really good information sharing, public libraries, books, newspapers, magazines, radio, television, the internet. Starting to sound like the Monty Python Life of Brian bit. But apart from the internet, the newspapers, the telegraphy, the railways, the motorways, the car, the spaceship, the food processor, the aeroplane, what have the corporations ever done for us? And it's true, yeah. This is where I've got a bit of a mixed feeling about it. Capitalism has provided us with all these things. But we're now at a stage, in the same way that, worldwide monarchy was a thing and it provided a certain amount of stuff. It set up nations and organisations of people and all that sort of thing. Set all that up, but it's gone now. And I think the current state of crony capitalism also needs to pass. And there's maybe 500 people on the planet that call the shots. And that's a gross overestimation. Could be far fewer than that. But so really, what we're saying is if we were less brainwashed, it's 7.5 billion versus 500. And I'm here to tell you, those 500 can't throw a punch worth a damn. Those 500 can't stand up to that 7.5 billion. And they've forgotten the basic premise of being a leader. You do what's best for the people you lead. And they're just not. So we need to fire them. Come up with some other thing. I'm okay with it continuing to be capitalism, but a capitalism that, has an understanding of its responsibility. If you've made billions, from lots of people, then you probably need to think about giving something back. You know, maybe giving something back without ego. So yeah, maybe we think about what money means. But yes, so yeah, so with the cultural appropriation thing, I don't think shaman is a problematic word. I think shaman is a very generic term. And if you say the word shaman, you get the same sort of image of people of all sorts of races. So yes. All sorts of people can be shaman. There have been shamans in the north, very far north of Europe, with the Suomi people. There have been shamans living in all sorts of places in Europe, in America, in Asia, Africa. So it's not appropriating a term. And maybe we can suffix it with the concept of cyber shamanism, in that the power that is, you know, generated by a person who's using metaphysical concepts to come up with solutions to things or to share knowledge, in that you're not here. You're not even, you know, connected by wires now. So at some point in the future you'll be seeing this and having to think about it. And in its own way, the creative process, the creative way to share knowledge is what shamanism is all about. There's a very good track by the Shaman called Re-Evolution that's what's the guy's name? Can't remember the guy's name who does the who the talk is by. I never can, it just slides out of my memory. But yeah, so it's on the album Boss Drum. If you look it up on YouTube, you can listen to it. So we need to look at the circuit boards, which is what I've been doing for the best part of a year now. You know, trying to pull people on a journey to look at the circuit boards of their own lives, as well as looking at how my life works. And it's good. By sharing, I understand myself more. By sharing, I'm becoming a lot more compassionate. I was very grumpy and it was pretty self-serving when I started. So yeah, if the truth can be told so as to be understood, it will be believed. And with that, I'm going to leave you to it. So thanks for watching, and as always, do take care. See you tomorrow, hopefully.